Oh, Dan.
Hello,
Nice
Dan.
one. Evening, Dan. Nice to see you.
You beat Eric, Dan. What's going on?
No, what's happening?
Right.
He's getting a bit poor, isn't he? But yeah, good evening to everybody. Thanks for joining, you early birds. Tonight's subject, if you're not watching now, you can catch it on catch up. Is go on, Nettie, what is it? Evening, Noreen.
Cellular memory.
Cellular memory.
Cellular. Celery memory.
Cellular.
Yeah, for us duggies, that literally means when recipients of organs, and do these organs have memories? So we shall see with all the research that one has done. On the subject, what I've got is not a great deal, but it'll suffice, and I'll back my colleagues up. But it is a controversial subject, believe it or not. There's not a lot of work being done on the actual study of it, but there's been a lot of feedback from it, if that makes sense. So patients do display a lot of things and do express their concerns or changes in personality and everything like that, but it's been dismissed to a big extent. It's logged, obviously, and this is why we've got this information, but there's not a lot done with it, unfortunately, which I think there should be more, because it's for major organs that can be, obviously, pardon the pun, they are life-changing, but these people change. And it's almost like a close subject of reincarnation, because some of these documentations that we're going to mention, they are real big changes to people's lives. We've got some, well, my colleagues have got some cases. I've just got general knowledge. Where are we up to? Halfway down my page already. Yeah, the physical changes and mental changes depend. They're dependent on the actual type of transplant. For example, from what I've gleaned, fingers that are resewn, limbs in that respect, seem to correspond with changes in talent, i.e. somebody that couldn't even look at a piano or had never looked at a piano become expert pianists and the like. It's absolutely fascinating. The more subject I do, the more I am in awe of human race, really, what we are capable of. It's amazing what changes have been made with these transplants. Let's have a look. Most documented are experiences from examples. A person suddenly, like in snooker, for example, they never used to watch it. There's loads and loads and loads. Go on, Nettie.
Noreen said, I read something interesting a good while back about the heart having memory of some description. Yeah.
Yeah, the term is called cellular memory. My phone nearly dropped over.
Yeah,
It's got a mind of its own.
the camera, man.
Yeah.
Instead of transplant, it thinks it's now, it can walk. It's got legs. But yeah, good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Any comments? Just chuck them in. We'll try and answer them. What's your research and what have you, Ian?
Well, I actually come across a medical study. So it just shows that they had studied 10 cases, which actually means they actually think it was worth looking into, which is something. unfortunately, they charge you money to download the full documents, but I've got the snippets of it. And basically, one of the cases, there was an 18-year-old lad who was a bit of a poetry writer, and he had written a book of songs which nobody had ever laid eyes on because it was stored away in a book in his drawer. Anyway, he was killed in a car accident, and his heart was given to an 18-year-old girl who was suffering from heart failure. So at some point, they obviously, the parents obviously met this girl. His parents found the book that he'd written on the songs in, and they obviously met, and they were saying about what he was like and all that, and they started reading her some of the song lyrics, and she was finishing them off.
Yeah.
She knew every lyric he had written.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. It really is fascinating. Like I said, I mean, there's that. There's also examples similar to that of like reincarnation, but it's the limb that's been reincarnated and it's wanting to continue its life through the recipient. So the recipient then is relearning everything that this organ is teaching that person, that recipient, and they end up being talented in something that they never experienced before.
Yeah, never even touched or thought of.
Yeah, like Eric is saying, serial killing.
Yeah, well, that was that question that we had, wasn't it? Yeah. What if the donor had violent tendencies or uncontrollable urges? Yeah.
Exactly. I forgot to say good evening, Rita and Eric. Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
And everybody else.
Dan said, I think the genetic memory is a very interesting subject, especially where people share memories via their dreams that seem to be connected to ancestors' living experiences. Yeah.
Yeah, there's actually, if you examine some films, they are loosely based on cellular memory, where, what do they call it now? Sleepless in Seattle, is it? Where they seem to be drawn to each other from across continent. But it's not because they know each other in person or have met each other in a past life as such. It's they end up being donors, recipients, and the donor is still alive, and they are drawn to each other. That, I think, is absolutely immense. They actually find each other.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's happened. It's been documented. It has happened. But it gets turned into film, obviously. And they don't want something as mundane or as that, or should we say not mundane, what's the word? Bit bizarre. So they turn it into a love story, but and it's just about people. Clandestine meetings.
Mm.
But it actually started out as a donor and a recipient. I think that's immense. I think they ought to have done it that way. Could have been a right film.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
What else have I got? I ain't got no else, me. I ain't. Because I've been poorly, I've been poorly. It's my own fault.
Yeah.
I had too many beers, Dan. I had too many beers.
It's your own fault.
It is. You know what I'm doing after this, though, don't you?
Going to bed.
I'm going to be looking at my eyelids, yeah.
Eric says, I wonder if anyone has been married because of that.
So that I'd say that one again.
He says he wonders if anyone has been married because of that. That'd be an interesting thing to look up, wouldn't it?
Yeah, well, exactly. Well, I don't know about married, but these two people that the film were loosely based on, yes, they did get together. Not that they still are or out like that, but it's almost like It. Is it It? Where the hand, it's an horror movie, but that hand is trying to find its owner. It travels all over the place trying to find its owner. And he's strangling people along the way. That's not very nice, is it?
No. Noreen says, with regards to the genetic side of things, as mentioned by Dan, when you think about it, animals have an instinct to be afraid of certain predators. Yeah.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, well, but that's also inherent in what they call herbivores and carnivores. That is very inherent, and I think some of that could be genetic.
It's survival instinct, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose it's the same as people, isn't it? I mean, maybe if the parents frightened of stuff, maybe they pass that down to the kids.
Yeah, but I think that's actual learning. I do think that's learning. Give me a case. Give me a case.
I can give you a loose case of that.
Look for that.
My mother, when she was pregnant with me, they at the hospital they snapped a needle in her. Now I have a fear of needles.
Right. Is it that you've learned it though over time through the story, or is it just inherent? It seems inherent.
I've just had it. I don't like needles at all. I mean, I'm better at it now. I mean, the nurses have learnt to distract me, but
like my mum was terrified of water because she was thrown into her brother's. Mate told to go and take her out to swim, learn her to swim, and they threw her in.
Yeah.
They threw her in, so she was terrified of it, and I'm the same. I don't like water. Deep water is oof, no.
Especially if it's salt water, eh, Nettie?
Right, that one down. Getting in trouble for that one. That was a tick there. Every cell.
So yeah, I'll just, like I said, I just find it fascinating. Evening, William.
You too, William.
I've got nothing. I've got nothing.
Eric says, "Don't worry, Ian. It's 5 nurses and a doctor to hold me down from shock."
Yeah, I'm not that bad.
Getting anything, that's all right.
I know it's written in my medical notes because I nearly knocked a blooming doctor for 6 once.
Yeah.
But sort of just went up straight in my arm. I nearly clouted in one. And I think they made an issue of putting it in my notes to send me to the nurse.
Yeah.
Apparently, there's 15% of people who have had transplants that believe the personality and mindset have changed.
And I don't think when it comes to the heart, because like I said, the latest research is that the heart does have a rudimentary brain, apparently. Cells similar to what an octopus has in its tentacle. So they can survive for a certain length of time. I personally have noticed a change in my personality since I had a heart attack. And apparently this is part of it. Even though I haven't, had a transplant or anything, since my heart attack, the things I can cope with and the things I deal with, a lot easier than I ever did. I used to be very highly strung as a kid. And there's a case there, like you said, Ian, with the needles things. Well, I was really, really bad with my eyes. Really bad. Anybody went near my eyes, and I fought like Eric did. I fought my mother, my dad, the receptionist, and the doctor at 9-year-old. I fought them off and ran home because he wanted to put drops in my eyes. And from that, always had a fear of being messed about with my eyes. But since my heart attack, I've had 3 injections in my eye. Wide awake this is. 3 injections in my eye, cataract surgery, and I'm still suffering with it now. I'd have cracked up. I would literally have cracked up. And I'm taking it in my stride. My personality has changed a little bit. since I've been out. I wouldn't have done blogs. I wouldn't have done these podcasts at all. But now I'm embracing them. You know, things do change you, and if that's the case with just a heart attack, then I can quite see it now. I couldn't before. There's no way I'd have been able to see things like that happening. But now, a recipient of an organ, trying to live its life in another body, I can actually envisage that. I can actually see that. I'd have said, get stuffed. But yeah, it's quite possible.
Yeah, we've got some Noreen. I think there has to be something more to the cellular memory. I do believe there is something in it. I've read lots of people's stories of their experiences. Most seem credible, but would be good if they could prove it.
Yeah. Well, they are doing, slowly but surely, they are doing these things, but they're not. They don't become mainstream, do they? It's not news, it's not sensationalism, so it's a bit mundane. So you're not going to see it on TV or like that, but because it's not somebody, you know, well known.
I'd rather tell you about research into the sex life of cockroaches, but there you go.
Exactly. Yeah.
Catherine says she's got to stop him before she goes to work.
Oh.
And Noreen said that's what she read, Brian.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some fascinating cases.
Exactly.
About it.
But as time goes on, we'll learn more and more and more. Do you want to tell us some cases then, Nettie?
Yeah. There is a researched and an actual documented case. It was an 8-year-old girl who received a heart transplant from a 10-year-old. The transplant was successful, but the girl began to have vivid dreams and nightmares. Parents were so concerned that they took her to the doctors, and the doctor said it was out of his range of expertise and recommended she see a psychiatrist. The psychiatrist told the parents that this was not typical dream for a child, but it all had characteristics of a memory. The question was, whose memory was the little girl having? Whose memories was she having?
Yeah.
So, but basically, the police were called in, and they brought a forensic artist to listen to her and recount the dream. The dream was about running through the woods alone at night, and she was assaulted by a man. At the moment of killing her, the man whispered some words to her before she died. The forensic artist drew a picture of the man the girl described in her dreams, and it was circulated by the authorities. Shortly after a man was detained with that description, the man broke down after being arrested and admitted to killing the 10-year-old girl. During the question, the man recounted the police the very last words he spoke to that little girl when he killed her.
Which is proof.
The man, the man, he was sentenced on the basis of those 3 words that little girl told the police.
Yeah.
And that's through she received a heart from the girl that died, 10-year-old girl that died.
Amazing, isn't it?
That's an actual documented case. That
the old proof of a phenomenon. That's the way to do
it. Yeah, and there's other cases similar to that where recipients of because the donor was foreign and the recipient obviously said English or American, and they start to speak foreign language, and they've never learnt it. You know what I mean? It's not their language at all, but they start to speak it. They don't know where it's come from. How do they know this? Well, it's from the donor.
Yeah.
It's again, it's fascinating. How can that happen? Literally.
Yeah.
I mean, we've heard of cases where people dream things and then pick things up or remember the dream and piece it together. We've heard of reincarnation, that the person takes that other person's traits on and one thing or another. But that from an organ, I think it's amazing. Go on, what's that?
I think it wouldn't probably be necessarily something they would want to broadcast. It might put some people off having transplants.
Well, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
to some extent, yeah, I should imagine so. Yeah, yeah. But this is where there's a need for screening. Isn't it, Robert?
Yeah.
I think there's a need for screening more. So that if a donor, for example, is a little bit nefarious and whatever, you don't use it. It's like bad meat, isn't it? You know what I mean? You wouldn't eat bad meat, would you? So don't use it. Because if there's a chance that that person could be giving bad traits to the recipient, you won't want that, would you? But I think it's the reason why it's happening at the moment is because there isn't enough donors. People don't like the thought of their organs going to someone else.
Yeah, yeah. Here's Robert's question. Organs don't have memories. It's Robert. I don't even want to.
They do. Obviously, they do.
This is Robert's question.
Yeah.
Eric, and going on the paranormal side, the transplant organ remember the past lives of the donor. Does the recipient remember those past lives?
Yes, this is what we're saying. Yeah, there's been cases that they do. So in a way, how can we put it? It's almost like when someone passes on. Now, this will be next one, because this will have a good connection to paranormal. If somebody passes away and they've got unfinished business, so they want to come back as spirit, but for some strange reason, someone's been a recipient of a major organ, and that spirit decides or is drawn still to be on earth. They're bound to earth through this limb or organ, and they will, in a way, it's a bit like a haunting, isn't it? It's a bit like a possession. I wonder if there's any cases of that.
I mean, that would make a lot of sense. Also, if you had unfinished business and part of your body was still living, would you be able to do it? Because
exactly,
it's almost like you're still tied, aren't you?
Yeah, but that's similar to Frankenstein in a way, isn't it? Some of Frankenstein films, like that murderer's hand that was on, and it started twitching and moving on its own and wanted to strangle everybody. So, because Frankenstein's monster were cut and shut, weren't they? It got parts from all place. And again, it just sort of begs that question: is it ethical to give bad parts or use bad parts? Because there is that chance, if it's anything like paranormal, the stronger personality, the stronger emotion transmits better than something that's soft and mild and gentle, doesn't it? You know.
Yeah.
So could that limb or organ have a lot more power in this new body than it had before?
I mean, there was a guy I remember probably about 8 years ago now who had a hand transplant from someone that passed away.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. What's that? The brain is an organ. You're right. But
it is.
And that's too complex at the moment for surgeons to be able to transplant it. But once they get to that stage where they can.
Yeah, although they have had sort of success, haven't they?
Yes, from a lesser brain. From
a
lesser brain.
Yeah, with monkeys. They transferred one monkey head to another monkey, didn't they?
Yeah, but it weren't successful as such. The thing lived, but it
Yeah.
couldn't function. It couldn't function because obviously it's so complex, the connections, that you're going to miss them, aren't you? It's like
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like taking a computer to bits when you've got no knowledge of computers and trying to put it back together again. You're always going to end up with a few screws, aren't you? Spare. So
Yeah,
it's that type of scenario. Yeah, it's that type of scenario. Until we get it down, which is coming, it's just painstaking. It's hours and hours and hours of surgery. Can't physically do it in time before the brain dies.
Mm.
Because you've got to sever connections and then reconnect them and stuff like that. So it's very difficult at the moment, but it will come. It will come.
Yeah, Robert says, but you can't transplant that, William. William says Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, Frankenstein's monster, I mean, not Frankenstein.
Yeah, just as a reference.
Yeah.
We're not talking about him.
He said, Robert Fulton, not yet.
Not yet. No, definitely not yet.
William says, but it was only a film, guys. Last
Yes, it was.
We know.
It was.
It's just a reference.
But it's referenced. It's just a reference to what actually happens. Because if you think about it, yeah, there's so many complex transplants now that are possible. They weren't back in there.
No.
But if you go on that, Frankenstein's monster is ahead of its day because it's actually possible now, apart from the brain, as I say. And I think that's why they stuffed up when they tried to use bolts and things like that to reboot the brain. Because if you think about it, it's a really, really complex computer. So
yeah,
they've got the right idea. We're on the right track.
Dan says, I often wonder if people just after surgery or stroke that end up speaking a different language are tapping into genetic memory or past lives. Just one injury resets the neutral pathways.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very possible, isn't it?
It's been documented that happens a little bit, like I said earlier, about reincarnation when that type of thing happens, and when the so-called spirit that's living inside the new person, shall we say, wants to go and visit, and they have memories and knowledge of another family in another country speaking a different language, and they're portraying this. It's almost like a haunting, like a possession. Well, the same is true of a limb. So but the memories aren't as profound as reincarnation, but they are there. And there is cases where these recipients learn a language that they've got no previous experience with.
Yeah.
Mm. Exactly.
Robert? Now, if you could transplant consciousness, now we have a monster. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Wait, you just transplant the soul then, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
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 Which is where it differs, which is where it goes from, like I've said, from transplant recipient to paranormal.
Yeah.
I think the closest thing to that, Robert, is deja vu. Because it can be very, very conscious. I've had that myself. I remember at 10-year-old, everything happened to me at 9 and 10. I became conscious at that age. There were a lot of things happened in my life, but I remember my mum and dad taking me to Scarborough, and my dad says, "Where do you want to go now?" And I says, "Up to Boating Lake." And my mum looked at my dad, and my dad looked at my mum and said, "Is there a Boating Lake?" I said, "Yeah, there is." "Are you sure?" And I'd never been before. I'd never been. But I remember vividly taking him up this road to this Boating Lake. I knew. I remembered it. Where from? I don't know. But I remembered it. It was just like deja vu. So
I've had a couple of cases of extreme deja vu where I'm in a situation and I suddenly realise this is very familiar.
Yeah.
And then I've actually said what the people are going to say before they've said it. And they've looked at me and go, "How do you know I was going to say that?" Don't know.
Yeah.
Really don't know.
There's a term for that. Can't remember. precognitive, whatever is it, something like that.
Precognition, yeah.
Yeah.
Dan says people also experience facinating limb syndrome in the case of amputees.
Yeah, that's they're the most common things where amputees can still feel pain in the leg that's being amputated, and they can swear that they're wiggling the toes when there's nothing there.
Or they get an itch. That's another one. They get itches where the limb's missing.
As it's healing, but that's, well, I suppose it's a related condition, but it'd be fascinating. This is another study. Get this one then. If for some reason a limb was discarded and then later on reused, if that person that's experiencing the loss of that limb can feel it, are they feeling what the recipient's feeling? So if they're sat inside at bed with this limb that's not theirs and they're wiggling the toes, can the donor feel that? That'd be weird, wouldn't it?
Quite freaky, wouldn't it?
That would be freaky, yeah.
That'd be weird. That was.
That'd be like having a bloody voodoo doll, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just trying to study. I think I've heard something somewhere. Don't quote me on it, but I'm nearly sure I've heard something about a person that had a toe given as a new thumb.
Yes.
The thumb was too badly damaged, and so they replaced it by the toe. It was their toe, but I recall somebody saying something about when they woke up, they went for nail clippers to clip this toe, then realised it were on their hand. Very weird, that one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Eric says he has constant deja vu.
Yeah. Yeah, but you know where that's from, Eric. That's definitely ancestry. You are searching for that ancestral home. And this is your fascination, because on one of your timelines that you're drawn to, and I believe I'm putting my Sen outline here, aren't I? But I believe it to be 18th century. That maybe 17th, 18th century. And it's in this country. You're drawn to this country. Scotland a lot as well, but I don't think it's actually Scotland. I think you'll find that it's in the borders. That's about as far as I've got so far. Because I did say to you that if I get out, I'll tell you, and I did. So.
Robert says, Dan, that's like ex-smokers. They still do the actions. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the trouble with giving up. What you do with your hands, isn't it?
Yeah, that's why I've got a vape. Because I smoked for over 50 years. Yeah, I don't know that old, do I? Oops, sorry. When we come with my beard.
Dan's laughing. Robert, they put things in their mouth.
What, them mash men?
This is Rita says Eric is deja vu.
Yeah, exactly. But again,
I'm pretty sure you're right.
Yeah, I mean, where you are, if I'm not correct, it is very similar. It's got a lot of similarities to Scotland and the borders, more the borders than Scotland itself, and that's why you're okay where you are, but you still feel that you need to visit your ancestral home. So there you go. Yeah, cheers. What are we on? Tell you, my eyes getting worse. I've only got one to be able to see. It's horrible. It's horrible. It's like having a cobweb constantly moving in your eye, but it won't focus either. So I've got like two field distances from one eye to other. So it's
we get you a donor, Bri. That'd be entertaining.
yes. I'll have a chapel at peg fitted. I'll be all right then. I might be able to settle.
William says I get cobwebs. Oh, no.
I know I do. I do, William. Oh, it's terrible. Yeah.
Cobwebs.
No, I'm not saying that. I'll be good.
Yeah, I can imagine what you were thinking.
William says, in my eyes, it's an age thing.
Yes, it is. And I'm diabetic as well, William. So it doesn't help matters.
No.
But everything, I've dropped a bit since I had a heart attack, literally. I'm still active in my head. It's just no else works in conjunction. I can't walk no. It's terrible. And I know Dan can identify with that as well. It's horrible. But it is what it is, and we have to work with what we've got. So if anybody wants to donate a new body, I'll be head transplant. I don't mind keeping me head, but yeah, no. Anyway, have you got any more cases?
Yeah, there's actually a book. It's called Change of Heart. It was written in 1977, and it's the memoirs of Claire Sylvia. She written in it that she stated that after a heart and lung transplant, it was like living with two souls in one body. She actually dreamt of a tall young man named, and she said it was Tim L, which turned out to be a donor, and he died in a motorbike accident.
Yeah.
It's actually a book that she written.
And then is this a recipient, an organ recipient?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. You see, again, it fascinates me. But I mean, I've had a similar experience, again, from 10-year-old. And I think I've mentioned this before, where I was fishing down at Pit Pond, and my mother come and grabbed me and took me home. I didn't know. I weren't told till years and years later, not before she passed away, not long before she passed away, bless her, that she was doing ironing, and she'd heard on wireless, or called it wireless back then, radio, that young boy with my name was drowned. She didn't read it. She didn't listen to any more. Luckily, neighbour were listening to the rest of it and told the full story when we got back. But yeah, my counterpart in Lancashire had drowned. He was the same age with the same name, and it's from that moment that I actually became, like I've said, a little bit more sentient. I seem to have an awareness of my surroundings, where before that I was just a typical kid that took nothing in. Just going through the motions, basically. I became really aware of my surroundings a lot more, which is, again, it's weird. I can't explain it any more than that. I've never been able to explain any more than that. But isn't that a weird thing to happen, that your counterpart, and you hear about it, and what you were doing was fishing, at the same time? Yeah, it's crazy, absolutely crazy.
Rita said, "Bri, that would be scary."
It was, but I wasn't told at the time, so I just knew that my mother had come down and embarrassed me in front of everybody, because she come running down with a pinny on and grabbed me a bit lug all and says, "Oh, come here, come home," and dragged me home. well, what have I done now?
Yeah.
So we're always getting into trouble for something. Mostly things that I hadn't done.
Richard Kay says this is an interesting subject.
It is. It's a fascinating subject.
Robert said he likes spring-heeled braai.
No, I'm not a murderer. What are you talking about?
Oh, Richard, there is some evidence of this. Yeah,
there's
loads of written.
There's a lot. There's also a scientific study into it which I came across, with several cases involved.
I'm wondering if our comments or this show yet again is running like slow, because we've covered a few things that questions that some of us audience has mentioned, but we've already talked about it.
Yeah,
it always works out like that, Brian. The comments.
Yeah,
we've had a time lapse before now, haven't we?
Yeah, definitely.
Richard said it seems impossible without the brain, but scientists have discovered this. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, as you said, Bri, earlier, I mean, the heart's got a memory.
Yeah.
But then, how do you explain the other organs?
Well, again, I think that if it's anything like if it's anything like an octopus, then most of an octopus's body is covered with secondary brains, so to speak. All its tentacles are independent. They've got an independent brain, and there's some similar organisms that have hearts as well, separate hearts, so they can survive until a new one grows. Can't remember what they call them now, but they're similar to octopuses, I think. Don't quote me on that, but I'm sure that's the case. And
I've heard of a sea creature that's got two hearts.
Yeah. A chicken. There was a case where this chicken lived for over 20 days without its head. And it was running about at that. I mean, what's all that about? But that's a true case, that one. It got its head lopped off, and the person that were going to cook it and eat it dropped it, and it ran off, and it managed to evade them. Wow. So they left it. They left it for 20 odd days, and it survived. Eventually, it died, obviously, because couldn't eat anything, could it? But its own body fat kept it alive for that length of time. Weird.
I've got Noreen Hill. I got in trouble with my mum when I was a teenager for skiving off school. She said she saw me, and she even had the same coat on ETC. I had to get her during the school to prove it wasn't.
Yeah.
Dan says every cell has a memory, in his opinion.
That's quite possible, because the scientific prognosis of it all is that it's DNA memory. That's what they've come up with.
That's
whether that's true or not.
Yeah. The other is cellular, like we've said. But if you consider, this is a bit far out for a lot of people. Ready? Are you ready for this? My brainy bit that I've just deduced. I've just deduced it. When you think about blood transfusions, a recipient won't receive a different blood type. It's all blood. So what's the big deal? Well, I think that's got something to do with cellular memory.
Yeah. And with organ donation as well, a lot of the time people have to have an anti-rejection drug, don't they?
Yes.
In a lot of cases.
Yes. And if it can get past that, then once it's accepted, then it does the opposite. It seems to start giving the recipient its own memories. It's like it's regrowing, but internally. So it's a weird one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
so maybe look at it through DNA, through blood. because that travels throughout the body and then throughout the mind, but it takes a while to do it.
Nori said lots of people started saying they had seen me and were convinced. If it had been me, it would have been definitely been me. It would have been right. Richard, I did copy this. The heart has a computer nervous system with neurons, neurotransmitters, proteins, and support cells. This system is similar to the brain and allows the heart to learn, remember, and sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, exactly. I mean, it's like we were saying about blood. You can introduce, studies have been, but it doesn't happen because there's no reason for it to happen. But a blood transfusion only usually happens when you need a significant amount, then that shocks the system. But apparently, if you give very small amounts over a long period, your body will start to accept it because it becomes a minority and not a majority and not a minority.
So basically, you could change your blood type then.
Yes. Yeah.
Interesting.
Over a long period of time, obviously.
Dan says definitely DNA in his opinion.
Yeah.
Richard says fascinating subject I had never thought about. Yeah, well,
exactly.
yeah.
This is what we try to do. This is what we try to do, Richard Wheels. We like to think outside box and tackle subjects that others haven't, because it is fascinating. It's not the same old then, is it?
No. Rita says awesome live.
As always, Rita.
Robert. Robert's a lot of people with my type blood is stupid.
There is, Robert. No, don't pull your chin down, fella.
Well, just
all these people with a sense of humour, you see, you might have touched.
I'm Scottish. I'm not sure if mine is blood.
Yeah. But it's again, it does. I mean, if you want to look on the sensitive side of things, it's and DNA. When you touch on DNA, the amount of chromosomes a human has, and as far as I'm not 100%, again, I don't quote me because I don't know, but it seems that we're the only animal on the planet that can vary the amount of chromosomes. There is people walking around, to all intensive purposes, we're all the same, but they have 2 chromosomes less. Don't sound like much, does it? But it's fundamental in somebody's DNA makeup.
Yeah.
So to live with different amounts of chromosomes, no other animal seems to be able to do that. Apart from, I think it's, again, reptiles. So maybe the ones that's running about are actually reptilians. Ooh.
No, Richard's doing about the case we did earlier about the 8-year-old girl and the transplant and she found the killer. Yeah. That was fascinating. That.
Yeah. Yeah, definite proof.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's I don't know. Maybe again it's a related thing with nightmares and dreams, because I've had some real doozies, me. And there's no real reason. I mean, they said that your dreams and everything are triggered by influences during the day or an experience. But I can categorically oppose that, because I've had dreams that are totally, utterly out the blue.
It can be your subconscious warning you as well, can't it?
Well, it can, yeah. But I mean, I've had some doozies, absolute doozies. Everything from flying. But my type of flying isn't like a lot of people's for some strange reason. It's more like swimming, but in the air. That's the only way I can describe it, because it's quite slow. It's not like a bloody jet or all like that. And I have to move my arms, but but I'm moving them in a swimming type of way rather than flying as such. He said, "Oh, it's a weird one." And I used to have this dream quite a lot at one point. I'm not saying thankfully, because I actually liked those dreams, but I stopped having them in my 20s. But I used to, it were always early hours or late evenings. It weren't night, it weren't day, but it were always a serene atmosphere. And I'd take off from yard just outside my house and run and fly, but swimming type flying from rooftop to rooftop, evading people because people would see me, but I was trying to hide. So when they'd see me, they'd say, "Oh, look, what's happening there?" And they'd be chucking stones at me and all sorts. And I'm dreaming this. I'm thinking, where the hell has that come from? It's crazy. And then the other one that, oh, go on.
Eric says, I am brew through and through.
It's more like whiskey.
Mary J. Williamson says, hello. Hello, Mary.
Hey, Mary, you've only got 10 minutes left. Where you been?
Robert says, Bri, you've got the same blood as him.
I might have, matey. I might have. Well, just let me know then.
And Mary J. Williams says, isn't it an out-of-body experience?
Well, I don't know. I honestly don't know. But, I mean, where else can you do that in this? It's not astral projection. That I do know, because it wasn't very psychedelic at all. It was serene, but that's it. But I've also had a dream where I'm on a recreation ground, just sunbathing. And all of a sudden, the sky starts to change, and I can see these great big alien craft, all different shapes and sizes, and they're having a massive battle in atmosphere. Just, how can I explain it? It's midday, but you can see these craft, similar colour to clouds, because they're just outside atmosphere, but not too far out of atmosphere that you can't see them. And it's, oh man, it's so surreal, and they're all fighting and shooting each other, and clouds are lighting up with these blasts, all different colours from these different ships. And I'm just laid on this recreation ground watching it. I'm scared, but I can't move. That's another odd one. I've had some doozies, like I've said. Yeah. So yes, I was good at English at school when it come to writing stories, but I weren't very good at much else. For that, I know we've gone down rabbit hole again, haven't we? But maybe we should do
we always go down one at least.
Yeah, maybe we should do that as a subject, dreams, and I'll have to look.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I'll have to look it up.
I've got a good story about a dream for that topic.
Go on. Or are you going to save it?
Yeah, I'll save it for that topic. And it wasn't me that had the dream, but it involved me, which is bizarre.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
Eric said he had that dream before too.
There you go.
Well, did you not look to your left, Eric? You might have seen Bri lying there sunbathing.
Robert said, do people dream in colour?
This is the thing.
Actually, black and white.
I can answer that. We actually dream in black and white because it's REM sleep. This is scientific. But when we recount the dream, we colour it in. So you think you've dreamt it in colour, but you haven't. It's when you're recalling the dream that it becomes colour.
See, I'm not the only artistic one then.
Yeah, I see.
And it says, yeah, but not sunbathing.
Well, we don't want to know then.
Yeah, we don't want to know anymore, Eric.
I'm too far already.
But it's fascinating. I think it's fascinating. I had some doozies, like I've said. I have had the generic where I've seen something and it scared shit out of me and I've had nightmares. I mean, we've all had that. My mother, when I was youngster, she wouldn't let me have cheese and ham. She said, "You'll have nightmares." And she were actually right, because if I have a lot of pork and I have cheese as well, I do have some doozy dreams. I really do. They're not nightmares anymore because there's not much scares me, but they would be if I were a youngster. By Christ.
Did you say don't eat cheese before you got
Yeah, if you have pork, does that mean you're going to dream of being chased by a pig with an axe?
No, I mean, that's why I didn't like Sesame Street.
Yeah. I mean, I used to have a peculiar dream as a kid. Considering I grew up in a haunted house, I used to dream I was getting attacked by Jaws in my bed.
Yeah.
The wax shape dreams, aren't they?
Yeah. No, I was more scared of bloody sharks than what was going on in my house.
Exactly. Yeah, but I think that, again, I do think that it can be Freudian, that one, that can be a coping mechanism type of thing.
Yeah, probably.
If you take your attention away from what's actually happening, you're still going to be scared, so you're going to experience something, but it's not a ghost. You turn it to something else, so that when you are walking about house during the day, you're not thinking about it.
Oh, yeah.
Very Freudian, that, isn't it? Very Freudian.
There's me sticking my head under the bed sheets thinking Jaws is going to come through the window. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I had a similar one with King Kong. You know, I can't. What did you? No, it weren't King Kong. It was that.
Well, I was going to say, at least King Kong can survive on bloody ground.
It was that other one. Joe 90, is it? Something like
Joe
that.
90, yeah.
It was that one when its big eye comes to that lass's window and it's peering through.
Yeah.
And its big fluffy hand comes through the window to grab her. Oh, I had nightmares with that one. Yeah. Yeah, we're always looking at windows after that for some reason. You know, where's this this gorilla coming from?
Yeah.
Robert says it's fear of the unknown. Yeah.
Exactly. I was very nervous, Robert, you know, when I met Nettie.
Well, I should have known about it.
Right.
I live in a bloody seaside town, so it should have been unknown.
Yeah. Strike two. I've got 2 strikes. Oh, bugger.
2 strikes in this one, right?
What happens at number 3?
Oh, don't even ask, Ian. Don't even ask.
I might get me bum smack. But oh my gosh, we managed. Well, we hadn't managed, did we? Because we've had to go down a rabbit hole. But is there any more cases before we go?
Yeah, this one is a 5-year-old boy after transplant was asked what he thought about the donor. He said he was just a little boy, just like my brother. He just fell down and hurt himself badly. He also said that he likes Power Rangers toys. The donor actually turned out to be a 3-year-old who fell off an apartment from a high apartment window trying to reach out for his Power Rangers toy.
Ooh.
I
thought you were going to say Buzz Lightyear then.
Never mind. Yeah.
Yeah, should have had Buzz Lightyear because he can fly.
Exactly.
Right, we're at now on 59.
Wow.
Okay, shall we give us good nights to everybody?
Last one. Robert, stay away from churches.
No, I can't. We've got one we've got to go back to.
Oh, yeah, we've got a right weird one to go back to.
Yeah. I've got to go back to one. And if you've noticed, Robert, yes, I'm blowing my own trumpet. But since I started doing these churches at the beginning of pandemic, everybody else seems to be doing them as well, which I don't mind. I mean, I think it's great. It's absolutely brilliant because at least these places are getting used. It's been encouraging with some of them that we've been to because we go to that many and there's that many that are just shells or that they're empty. There's nobody in them. There's nobody doing it. But it's encouraging that not quite recently, these places are being used for various things, which is great. Even if it's not worshipping, at least they're being used and being saved.
Yeah.
We've got 2 last comments. Dan says, thanks for a great show.
You're welcome, Don. Thank you for staying.
And Mara, Jay Williamson, have a great evening and weekend. You too, Mara.
Same to you. We'll
same to
talk
you.
again soon. Yeah, we'll have you back on.
Oh,
I'm off out tomorrow. I don't know. We're going to a restaurant that serves a 40-ounce cheeseburger.
Oof. My God. They're going to be stuffed on
But
Sunday.
they reckon if you could eat it in half an hour, you get it for nothing.
Aye, well, I won't be attempting.
Well, I can actually. I'll send you a picture of what the burgers look like. You'll go, my God.
I've seen loads of them. I mean, there's very
They're
few
like
people who can manage them, though, isn't there? I've even seen Eddie Hall fail with some of them.
Yeah, but it's not even just the burger. You've got onion rings in it. You've got hash browns in it. You know,
and
There's
we're
a place-
going to have to say goodnight.
Yeah. Good night, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks for joining us.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.